Hey y'all, and welcome to the Good Buddies Anime Review. I am your good buddy Brandon.
Do you freaking know that I am your good buddy Roger?
It don't feel right. It don't feel right when I'm the loud one. It don't feel right.
You know, I don't know. I like bringing it in hot, but
yeah, all right.
each your own, man. We're different people.
We are different people indeed. Welcome to the show, y'all. My Good Buddies universe. It's glad to see you again. Good to hear from you, even though you're hearing from us. And we're gonna talk about anime.
Boogiepop and others.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be a fun one. We gonna do it. But first of all, Roger, we're gonna talk about this anime. We're gonna break it on down.
It's gonna be interesting.
We're gonna do some stuff. We're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna give it a final review of recommendation. We're gonna give you a recommendation. Should you watch it? Should you not watch it? Hey, we'll let you know what we think. But Roger, if it was Boo Boo Skunk Garbage, what would you call that?
I'll call it an anime, maybe not.
What if it was, it wasn't great, but
Anime.
It's pretty average. It was decent.
Anime, maybe.
It's actually pretty good though. Pretty good stuff.
Animals, definitely.
But what if it was amazing, Roger? If it was so good?
Man, if I sat on the couch every single night and I did not fall asleep, I would call this one Animazing.
Oh no, spoilers. All right. But that's the ranking system we're going to use here. And in order to get there, we're going to give it a possible score of up to 10 stars, between 0 and 10.
That's how math works.
That is how math works. Two stars each, 5 different categories. That's how math works.
That's how math works.
And the first category we're going to discuss, Roger, is
the story and setting.
The second category,
the characters and development.
Número 3.
The art and animation.
And number 4,
that soundtrack.
And finally, that fifth thing, that Good Buddies wriggle room, that je ne sais quoi. Roger, what does that mean?
I don't know what.
I don't know what. But that's how it's going to work, y'all. So we're going to jump right into it. I got a quick pitch for us. If you will indulge me.
I'm glad that you're handling the quick pitch.
You didn't have nothing?
I don't got anything, dude. I mean, all right. I could try.
Y'all, this is a weird fucking show. That's all you really need to know. But here's a quick pitch. In an unnamed Japanese city, the titular Boogiepop is a reaper, a shinigami, a death person creature thing, if you will.
The reaper of souls.
Sure. Whose consciousness is inhabiting Toko Miyashita, a young girl and student at Shinyo Academy. Boogiepop seeks to dispose of, quote, enemies of the world, including metahumans who have evolved to have strange powers, and synthetic humans, which are apparently from some shadowy organization called the Towa organization, something like that. This 18-episode anime is split into 4 stories encompassing 4 different Boogiepop novels, those being Boogiepop and Others, title.
Yep.
Boogiepop Returns versus Imaginator.
Yep.
Boogiepop at Dawn.
Yep.
And Boogiepop Overdrive, the King of Distortion.
And if for what it's worth, I don't know if this matters to anybody or not, but the last 2 are reversed in how they were released in the books, I believe.
Sure.
According to Wikipedia, if you choose to believe that.
Now, also, if this matters to anybody, this is my first experience with anything Boogiepop at all.
I have Boogiepop Phantom, the original one from 2002 up there.
Nice. But you never read any of the books or nothing like that?
I never read any of the books.
Yeah, I have seen that character. I think only in that Dengeki Boku game.
Dengeki Bunko Fighting Climax. Yeah,
it's a fun game. I've seen him in this game that me and Roger play sometimes, and that's it. And then I watched this and I read some Wikipedia stuff, and I'm like, okay. So that's my experience. I've never seen the original series. I was familiar with it though. I think I've seen those books.
I
maybe
think
at the bookstore.
the original series. Now I might be wrong because I haven't watched it in a long time, and I only watched it the once. But it covers more of the Boogiepop and Others story. It's like an extended version, and they might have added extra stuff in.
Cool.
So.
But we're going to break on into it now, starting with that first category, Roger.
The
story and setting. Anything to say about story and setting, bud, or you want me to take it?
I mean, other than it's broken into 4 different stories, the setting is all the same. It's in the same city. However, there are different locations.
Yeah, setting-wise, it's fairly diverse. I would say it's also fairly realistic. Like this again is an unnamed Japanese city. I think at one point someone talks about going to Tokyo or something, but they mostly just stay in this pretty large city. And it's got trains. It's got bridges.
It's got
streets.
the Japanese word.
It's got cafes where they get their coffees and teas.
Shinyo Academy is
yes, that's the school. Yeah,
we'll just call it Shinyo, I guess. Because the city is unnamed. It even says that in Wikipedia.
Sure. That Shinyo Academy is the main setting for the first story that we get, and then it branches off from there, and we get to some pretty like wild locales, particularly in the last couple. There's like a big like hospital building that's super rad. The architecture is all wild, and then there's this what is it called, the Moon Temple in King of Distortion. It's some pretty interesting locations and stuff, but for the most part, like, it's just taking place in this city and, in and around this city. Story-wise, we already said it's broken up into different stories. I would say that, and we're going to get to this more in a second, but it focuses very intently on individual characters and the stories. And I do have one little complaint there, and that is that this kind of throws off a bunch of the larger questions.
Yeah.
Like, it is brought up several times and implied that Boogiepop may not actually be this spirit that is popping up and inhabiting this girl, but simply that girl experiencing a dissociative identity disorder, like a split personality thing.
And Boogiepop actually isn't any help at all as to why he is there. Whenever asked,
that's one thing. Boogiepop is on the Wikipedia and apparently in the books referred to as he. Sometimes in the show, but mostly referred to as they.
In the show, Boogiepop says you can refer to it whatever you want.
Right.
However you want to view.
Most of the time, I noticed that in the sub anyway. I watch the sub, you watch the dub. Yes. Yep. Most of the time in the sub anyway, when someone is talking about Boogiepop, because Boogiepop's kind of an urban legend at the school, they will say he. But then when they're actually talking to or looking at Boogiepop and referencing them, they say they. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's
in the English one, typically they just refer to Boogiepop as Boogiepop. Almost every time.
Gotcha. All just first person stuff. But yeah, it's implied that this may be a dissociative identity disorder thing, but it's never really explored. And also, maybe a minor spoiler. I'm going to say it's kind of hard to spoil this thing because it's so all over the place.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
This might be spoiler proof, y'all.
There are some things that you're like, you might be listening to this and then you watch the show, or if you've already watched the show, like, I really wish they would have dug into that and gave you some spoilers.
There's a lot of big overarching stuff. Like, and there's a lot of big overarching stuff like, you don't get a lot of you are told about, and there is reference to this TOA organization. You don't get a lot of with that. You don't get a whole lot with these metahumans. They're referred to as MLPSs or something.
Yep.
And you don't get a whole lot of information like, well, why is that happening? Or it kind of seems like just an X-Men thing where some people just have these mutated powers or whatever. But there's a lot that just kind of gets lost in the more minute aspects of the narrative, which is mostly about these characters.
Yeah.
Very, very intently about these characters.
This show, there's a whole lot to miss.
Yeah, no kidding.
And to the point, like, I don't know if I can actually say that I was talking to Brandon earlier about plot holes and stuff, but
sure.
Thinking back to it, like, I don't know if there actually was a plot hole there, because if you turn your head for a second, this is a show where you can't miss a single fucking line.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame because it puts you to sleep.
There's a lot of talking in here. Yeah. It's just a lot of talking. Which is not to say there's no action. There actually are some action bits, and those action bits are rad.
They're really cool.
But they are so few and far between.
Yeah, and like the build to them, I mean, it is a build.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I don't want to go out and put this out like to where, like you feel like you can just turn this off now, like we're going to trash it.
We don't want to say
I'm not trying to trash Boogiepop. I'm just giving you my honest opinion.
Yeah.
I'm with you, my experience with this show, which I didn't particularly think was bad.
Yeah. So let's get this one out of the way now. I did finish the series, all 18 episodes.
Yes, I am on the last arc.
Yeah.
I have fallen asleep 3 times.
We actually talked about this.
3 times.
We actually talked about this, like, before I had finished it, before, like, we were both partway into it, like, a few episodes in, and both of us were like, I sat down talking to Roger, I was like, well, I watched another episode of Boogiepop and fell asleep, and he was like, me too.
Yeah.
He called it Snoozy Pop.
Yeah, Snoozy Pop.
It's kind of, that seems really mean, but like, we're gonna talk about it.
Okay, so yeah, through the overarching theme through this review is going to give back to the reason why this anime is kind of snoozy, because I think there are good reasons why it is. I don't think they're intentional reasons.
Sure.
But yeah, we'll get through it throughout the entire review. But
so let's move on then to as I was saying at the end of that one, a lot of those big overarching questions are completely lost because we're dealing mostly with this character development. So let's talk about these characters in development.
Okay. Before we talk about this in this category,
yes.
If you've only seen the first few episodes and you don't hear us talk about a character, that's because they ain't showing back up.
Yeah,
don't get attached to much of anybody in this show.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters that show up in like just this one story and then they're gone from the rest of them. Or maybe they'll show up and then like they might pop back in, but in a very minute role. For the most part, it focuses on like maybe 3 or 4 different characters.
And people do die. Don't think that there aren't deaths.
You gonna see some deaths.
People die in this show.
There are some deaths. So let's start with the titular Boogiepop, which is also Miyashita. Miyashita. Yes. So usually this character. So it is 2 characters. There's a couple scenes where like you'll actually see Miyashita talking, and then suddenly you just hear Boogiepop, because Boogiepop does have a different voice, and usually you see Boogiepop, which is this somewhat snarky and sarcastic character who is doing battle with these metahumans and or synthetic humans and these creatures.
Enemies
and
of the world.
Enemies of the world, with this like weird microfiber string thing.
Yeah, it's like some fishing line.
Yeah, but it's like gold.
Yeah, it's that heavy duty. It's that shark fishing line.
What'd you say it was? The boomers? We were comparing it to guitar strings.
Yeah, the GHS boomers.
Ain't none of that elixir bullshit. She ain't running no Didarios over here.
Yeah, no Didarios. It's the GHS boomers.
So dumb. But yes, like it has this microfiber string that is capable of capturing someone, wrapping them up like Spider-Man, or just straight up taking their arms and legs off. And you gonna see some of that. Boogiepop is also, as I said, something of an urban legend. Is known in some small capacity to most, if not all, the students of Shinyo Academy. And also, really loves them some Richard Wagner. The freaking, what is it, the Meistersingers of Nuremberg or something is like this. It's an opera by Wagner that's also known for being an incredibly long opera, that Boogiepop apparently loves the overture of this opera, and you'll hear them whistling it. It gets played a few times throughout the series. Yeah. There's one bit at the very end of the last episode where I was like, don't you fucking do it. Don't you fucking... Boop, started playing the song. I was like, you suck.
There it is. And Boogiepop also is... he kind of has an air about him, or a belief in this urban legend that Boogiepop appears to take over a human female at the height of their beauty,
which is neat.
Yeah,
that's also a thing with the schoolgirls. They've kind of got like a different take on the urban legend, which is that Boogiepop like shows up and kills these girls when they're at the height of their beauty.
Yeah, but in reality, Boogiepop is a champion of humanity.
So you're saying Miyashita's like super hot, is what you're saying? It's kind of weird. Boogiepop also, like, the reason...
You couldn't hear my shrug on that.
No. The way that the name Boogiepop comes about, there's a bit where, like, you actually see some of it happen, like, how the name came about, but they kind of describe it as being, like, they kind of just pop in when it's necessary. Boogiepop has no control over when they appear, when they inhabit this host. They just kind of happen.
Bubble to the top.
Yes, when there's some kind of threat to the world, they just kind of show up. Which is certainly an interesting way to, get someone in there, I guess. But let's talk about some other characters. Probably the next most important one, probably you could call him a dual protagonist even at some points, is Kurma Nagi, who is another student at Shinyo Academy. I describe her as a little badass. You'll sometimes see her running around in like these Catwoman tight suits and stuff and beating the hell out of people and just being cool as shit.
Yeah, she is very Batman, Catwoman-esque.
Yes. And also seems to know more than a little bit about Boogiepop, these MLPS metahumans, and the Towa organization. Certainly more so than anyone else. Obviously some kind of backstory there. You get a little bit of it in one of the stories. And Boogiepop also refers to her every now and then as the Fire Witch, which, if you read the Wikipedia page, there's stuff about that.
Yeah.
But nothing really in the show that talks about it, so I'm not going to go there.
Yep.
There's a couple more characters that show up a couple times. You had them, right?
Yeah. We could talk about Kazuko Sliema, who is a second-year student, and she is she has a reputation of being she's like bookwormy. She's always reading about criminal psychology, criminals and stuff like that, trying to figure out why people with negative impact in the world, why they tick the way they tick.
You saying she has like a true crime podcast or something?
She would have a true crime podcast.
She absolutely has like a Dahmer t-shirt or something.
Yeah, she's kind of the science almost behind.
Yes.
Like,
and she's
the realistic take on why, even though some of it's supernatural and she's totally wrong, she has a realistic view.
Right. She kind of has these explanations and stuff, and she also does a little bit of investigating.
Insightful.
Yes, very much so. She's actually like the Q in this show. Like, people will go to her to, like, you know, ask, hey, do you know about this Boogiepop thing and blah blah blah. She's like, oh yeah, I've heard of that, blah blah blah.
Yep.
Like, it's interesting. She's kind of like the brains of the show.
Yeah.
To an extent.
And then there is Kei Nitoki?
Sure.
Nitoki? I think that's how it's said.
I just say K.
Yeah, Kei. Let me make sure I'm saying it right. Yeah, Kei Nitoki.
Sure.
She is
head of the disciplinary committee.
She's another second-year student. Yeah, she's the president of the disciplinary committee, and she essentially is the weight bearer. Yeah. People come to her with their problems.
Yes, and that plays a big part later on in the story.
Whether she likes it or not, and people come into her with their problems.
She just can't say no.
Yeah, she has real problems saying no.
There's also a character I haven't really touched on, which is Miyashita is dating this guy, Kaneda.
Who Kei definitely has feelings for.
Yeah, she crushing.
Yeah, and that plays out a little bit in the series. Like, this is
Takeda, that's his name.
Yeah. That's not really a spoiler either. I mean, I guess it kind of is, but it's nothing that is consequential to the story.
No, not really.
Really at all. That's a lot of the shows. You think things could be consequential, but they are not.
Yeah.
But essentially she kind of gets caught up in the crossfire a few times. Caught up in the crossfire. Just trying to help or not being able to say no.
Yeah, man.
That's K.
So those are like the main. We only mentioned these ones because they show up in at least 2 or 3 of these 4 stories.
Yeah.
And Boogiepop obviously is in all 4. Nagi to some extent is in all 4. Yeah, it's
and there are bigger characters in these arcs. There are very important. Sometimes these characters that we haven't even talked about are the most important character in the arc.
Yes, but they only show up in that one.
Boogiepop ain't there a whole lot.
Yeah, that first one you said it's called Boogiepop and others. May well just been others.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Boogiepop kind of ends up being this kind of like sometimes like a Deus Ex Machina kind of thing. Like, you watch these, and that's the thing I wanted to get to on this. Like, we talked about the characters. This show really is all about character developments. The episodes will introduce characters and elements that sometimes seem to mean nothing. Like, you can watch the whole first episode of this arc and it's all about this character, and then the second one starts is about this other character. It's like, well, who's this asshole? But then boom, it all comes back around. It is legitimately very well written. Yeah, I believe very well written. But a lot of times, sometimes you'll have like entire stories that are about this guy, this person, and they have these interactions. You're watching all this stuff happens, and then Boogiepop comes in right at the end to fix it. So that's kind of Boogiepop's whole deal. Yeah. It's sometimes they're there for more, but sometimes they only show up just to handle stuff at the end.
The problem with this, and as well written as it is that it is convoluted.
It is very convoluted.
It is convoluted, and if you take your mind or your focus off of it for a second, you're gonna miss something important. You're gonna miss something important.
Yeah, and see, this is a thing that I think we might have experienced slightly differently, because you watching dub, me watching the sub. Yeah, I had to focus because I'm reading the whole thing. Yeah, so I feel like I got a little bit more of it. I said that, like, when I was watching it, the first arc was certainly the most confusing to me.
God, because I hope that the text didn't scroll by too fast.
And no, for the most part, I could read it good. But yeah, the first arc was like particularly confusing because literally the first episode starts with like the beginning of this thing. And then you see the end of the thing, and then the next 2 episodes are just the middle in different order, all out of whack.
Totally out of place. Yeah.
The rest of it is pretty straightforward with the exception of a few flashbacks and whatnot.
Yeah, it does do the thing where there's a central point. That
Versus Imaginator was very good at that, where like you have this whole episode about this guy, and the end of that episode is this moment where he's like walking through the alley and meets these other characters. And then the next episode is about this person, and then at one point, boom, he's in the alley, and that's when this guy shows up, and that's like the break off point.
Yep.
So it's pretty fascinating stuff, but I was legitimately intrigued by these characters. Yeah, I really did enjoy the development
cool
and the stories here.
In there.
It's just we're gonna get to the rest
of it.
It's
so convoluted, and at times, it
is hard to follow.
It's hard to follow. Yeah.
Let's move on to that art and animation. How'd you feel about it?
I'm not gonna say it's abysmal or anything. It's serviceable.
I would say it's fairly standard.
I would say it's not standard to today. I would say it was standard to 2008.
I feel like, but I mean, could that not be part of it? They were going for like kind of an older look because of Boogiepop fandom and whatnot.
I mean, they're calling back. I mean, Boogiepop is older than that. I mean, if you wanted to do that, you could megalobox it or something.
I don't know. I felt like for the most part it was decent.
Make it look like Lane, something like that.
I will say that the action bits, they really switched up
cool.
they switched up the animation for those. They reminded me a lot of Devilman Crybaby, where like sometimes they'll have these like squash and stretch things going on as they're running and moving and all this crazy stuff's happening.
But
they're fairly chaotic, in fact, those action
the
bits.
overall animation, just looking at it, it's not exciting to look at.
I thought it was okay.
I don't know. I couldn't. I'm not trying to be too hard on it, but I mean, it just felt, out of all the anime I've seen, like I feel like I could confidently say that this animation that came out in 2018 and onward into 2019 certainly looked like it was from 2008.
Yeah, fair enough.
It just wasn't. It didn't feel like it had a lot of time. Now, granted, it did have 5 episodes more than what most anime these days have.
Yeah, maybe
and I don't know if Madhouse had, Madhouse was who animated it, I believe. Sure. And they might have done the original. I don't know that for sure.
Go grab that box, check.
I can check in the ramble. But it didn't do it for me.
It wasn't up to snuff, you say?
Yeah, the colors weren't great.
Yeah.
The character designs were flat.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about the character designs a little bit, actually.
It was serviceable.
I feel like the character designs themselves were fairly straightforward for the most part. They are school kids in school kid uniforms. The main difference is their hair and eyes.
Yeah.
But Boogiepop, having not watched any Boogiepop stuff before, I was pretty taken by the signature look, the weird hat.
Yeah,
and cloak.
Boogiepop definitely does have a signature
Boogiepop
look.
pops.
Yeah.
And I would say that some of the synthetic humans that we run across really push the limits of human body structure. One in particular, Spooky E, shows up in versus Imaginator, and that
fat
fool,
Terry Bogard.
That fool's wild looking.
He's a fat Terry Bogard, man.
Yeah, man, he's real crazy looking. I will say this one thing about this show that kind of annoyed me immediately is that Boogiepop. When Boogiepop's talking and you're looking at Boogiepop's face, Boogiepop always has this smug, fucking sarcastic smirk. Looks like, if you know the DreamWorks face, if you don't know, just Google DreamWorks face. If all she needs to do is pop that eyebrow up and she's doing a classic Boss Baby DreamWorks face. Like, the whole time I'm just like, you think you're better than me, Boogiepop? More like Boogiepop.
Well, if you ask Boogiepop that, Boogiepop would say that Boogiepop doesn't know.
Just gonna step on my Boogiepop joke, okay? I thought that was pretty good.
I'm not gonna step on your Boogiepop, dude.
I thought Boogiepop was pretty good, man.
I prefer Snoozy Pop, but
Snoozy Pop, all right. But yeah, man, that really just kind of, the whole time I'm just like, your face. Like, yeah. It was kind of annoying. And that's what they were kind of going for, because like, if you listen,
bring it up.
Particularly in the sub, or if you listen to that voice, it's just dripping with this sarcasm, this real smarkiness to it.
Yeah.
That's just like, ugh.
At one point in the show, in one of the arcs, a character is confronted by Boogiepop. And they quickly realize that it's not Boogiepop, because Boogiepop never has this look on their face. Look.
It doesn't look like the way they're looking. Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's accurate. Do you want to talk about the music and soundtrack?
Yeah, it's good. It's not bad. This is another big, with the kind of drab visuals, and
I was kind of off on it.
The music, it is there's lots of ambient stuff, and it's cool. But it is sleepy.
It's snoozy.
Freaking sleepy. So you're sitting there, you're on the couch like me, okay? You got your legs kicked up, you're watching a little bit of anime, you're getting real relaxed, and then you got I watched the dub, and the dubbing is kind of flat.
Okay.
It isn't anything to write home about. So you're listening to this kind of flat dub with the ambient sounds in the background. You don't need to look at it because it ain't pretty. And you're just relaxing back there, and there's just some talking going on and some ambient
just kind of
noise.
like,
and then before you know it, you've drifted off 3 times trying to watch an anime for this review. And let me tell you, your boy in the ramble this week ain't gonna talk about any other anime because I fell asleep every fucking time.
Oh, baby boy.
But overall, the sound is cool.
He's just a sleepy boy. Sleepy boy. I ain't your wakey boy. Sleep.
At the end of the day, I don't think the sound design is bad. I like the ambient sounds.
Sure.
It's just, and even like the music and stuff, they'll have like little synths and stuff going on very slowly, lightly. It's good. I really like the intro song. I know Brandon didn't like it as much, and he's got a good joke for you.
Do I?
Yeah, about who it sounds like.
Oh, I was telling him there's a voice in there that. So the line is, it's like, where are you now? Have you gone away? You now. And it sounds exactly like Jennifer Coolidge to me. She's just like, you look like the 4th of July. That's what it sounds like.
That's the lady from American Pie.
She was Stifler's mom. Scotch, aged 18 years. Just how I like it. I'm like, all right. All right, Boogiepop singer.
Creepy. I thought the opening was perfectly weird.
Yeah, I was also saying the opening. That's the shit weird. You don't want anyone walking in on you watching.
Yeah,
like there's a bit like so parts of the opening are really cool. There's like a fight on the building or something. Miyashita like looks up to see herself as Boogiepop doing battle. And like it's pretty wild looking. There's a bit where like that the train tracks is when the music picks up and I'm actually into the music right then. But then it like goes into this bit that's like, all right, well this is what people think of when they think anime, and it's why no one watches anime, which is when she like it's like some kind of dream world and she's like floating like through water. She's completely nude with no nipples or anything. There's nothing there. She's smooth like a Barbie. And then like herself, a mirror image of her flies at her and then they start making out. And I'm like, neat.
It's weird. It's perfectly weird. It's
I would have felt real weird if my mama had walked in right.
It's fitting.
Like, come on, you can't be dealing with that.
And the song, I thought the song was good. The outro, it's more weird stuff, but less weird and less good.
Yeah,
as the music was.
The outro was okay. It was fine.
It was okay.
Visually, there was like not a whole lot going on, but it was fine. I will say that like as far as the sound effects during the show go, like for the most part, I'm not gonna lie, I found the music pretty forgettable. But the sound effects during the show are hit and miss.
Yeah.
Because, like, sometimes they are spot the hell on. There is a bit where someone is falling through the sky. They are falling out of the air, and the sound of the air rushing past them and the sound of their clothes whipping in the wind is so intense and so just fast and heavy that I started panicking a little bit just experiencing it and watching this happen and hearing it. That was rad. And then there's other bits where I swear to God, there's a bit where there's these two characters talking, and one of them stops talking, turns to walk away, and walks away, and it's a very dramatic, like, of the heels, like, snapping on the ground. But the first thing you see when they walk away is their shoe hitting the ground, and my girl is definitely wearing sneakers. Why do you sound like that in your sneakers? That makes zero sense.
I didn't notice it.
You haven't gotten to that episode yet.
Oh, okay.
It's like the last episode that happens, and I'm like, y'all, that ain't nothing.
I actually thought, in my opinion, I thought the sound was the strongest part of this anime.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, we're on different levels.
It really could shift any way from person to person.
This could be a case of like sub versus dub, maybe, but I was not into the sound design for this one, honestly. For some parts of it,
I did far more listening than you would imagine.
Yeah, no kidding. Parts of it were very intense. Like I said, that bit where like the person's falling out of the air and stuff, very well done. Other parts I was like, all right, this is dumb. But let's move on to that final bit, that Good Buddies Wiggle Room. How do you feel about that?
In the Je ne sais quoi, dude.
Sleepy.
It's very sleepy. And I know the feeling it's going for, and I know that it has a cult following. I am not part of that cult following.
Yeah.
I really wanted to like this one, and it's going to get obvious comparisons to Serial Experiments Lane and Paranoia Agent.
Yeah, I felt some Paranoia Agent.
Serial Experiments Lane did it before Boogiepop did.
Oh.
You know, like Boogiepop doesn't have...
Beat you to it, nerd!
It doesn't have the luxury.
Is that before the novels, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Lane was 1998, and the novels were hitting in 2000.
Hitting us in 2000? Or...
I think they were being... It may be 99, 2000. Yeah, you can look it up and quote me while I'm talking, find out. Serial Experiments Lane, at least anime-wise, was there first. It was weirder first, and it was better.
When was Lane released?
1998.
In any form?
Let me find out.
Is that novels? Is that anime?
That's the anime.
Was it based on a manga or anime or novels or anything?
Broadcast 1998.
Okay. Boogiepop and Others, the first in the Boogiepop series, released in 1998.
July 6th.
I don't have a date here.
Okay, no date.
Hang on. Let me look. February 25th.
February 25th?
Boom.
Okay, so it was a little earlier. Too close to call. I mean, this was an anime.
Certainly before the anime, yeah.
Yeah. So who knows how long they had been working on the anime itself.
Yeah, Lane definitely came out before the anime, though.
It's going to get the comparison to Lane. However, Lane is perfectly better. And
I couldn't get into Lane.
I like Lane. Now. Lane it's one of these like Boogiepop where it's a little harder to follow, but Lane is just, in my opinion,
a better series.
It was a trailblazer where Boogiepop feels, you know, like, yeah, it's part of the 25th Dengeki Bunko, so it is here much later, but it feels like it missed its train. And Paranoia Agent, though it did come out a little later, Paranoia Agent certainly did it better.
It's a badass show.
In my opinion.
All right.
I don't know. I liked Boogiepop.
Okay.
However, I would have a hard time recommending this to almost anybody.
Sure, I can see that. For me, I just got a little blurb I wrote here. I said, as sharp as this writing is, and I do find the writing to be very sharp, and as fascinating as the characters can be, the show can be a bit of a snooze fest. So much focus on exposition and development makes for great books, I'm sure, but sometimes a boring program. It is, I don't like to say boring, I would say this is a very methodically paced show. It knows where it's going, and it's gonna get you there. It's gonna take a minute.
Yeah, it's gonna take its own damn time.
Beyond that, here's a fun little anecdote. This last bit, I was yesterday 5 episodes from being done, and me and Haley were hanging out, and we started watching. I was like, I gotta watch these 5. It's the beginning of this arc. You can, like, you know, you might not understand what's going on completely, but you'll at least get some of the story. And we started watching, and we're on like episode 3 of the 5 last ones. So that would be like, what, episode 16? Mm-hmm. And we're watching. And I paused it at one point just to see how far in we were, and I thought I was being like kind of a jerk by like pausing to see how far in we were. I paused it, and both of us simultaneously were like, "Damn, we're only 8 minutes in." That is a real thing that happened.
You feel like, every second.
Every second of this show. It's not like some other ones that are just fly by and you're like, damn, what a program.
And if that was the intention, God,
yikes.
Damn, they hit the nail on the head.
Beyond that, I will say that for other just general je ne sais quoi stuff, little wiggle room for me, there is a decent amount of gore in this show. If that turns you off, it'll turn you off. And there is some kind of weird, sexy stuff with one of these synthetic humans who does take the form of a very young girl. So that can be weird, but... yeah, it wasn't like you don't see anything, so it's not like so crazy. But yeah, it's a little awkward. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But that's about it for me. How do you want to move into the scores, big boy?
Yeah, let's get into those scores.
Let's talk about it. All right, story and setting. What'd you give it?
I gave it 1 point.
I gave it 1.5.
1.5. Okay.
How do you feel about the characters and development?
1 point.
I went 2.
You went full 2?
I really liked the development of these characters.
I thought it was just too convoluted to go.
All right. How about the art and animation?
1 point.
Yeah, 1.5. It was okay.
Okay.
Music and soundtrack?
I gave it 1.5.
I gave it 1.
Okay.
And the je ne sais quoi?
I gave it 0.5.
I also went 0.5 on that one. It was hard. It's kind of hard to recommend it. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
I can't think of like you got to be a real special breed for me to recommend this one to you.
Yeah,
like you got to love them lanes and Paranoia Agents.
That's the thing, man. I feel like I feel like this is one that, I mean, it's based on the light novels. I feel like it would work. It works better as books because
you might be right, dude.
That's
you might
the thing.
be right.
I feel like it must work better as books, which is not to say it's bad. I legitimately did enjoy a lot of things in here.
I honestly don't think that this anime is bad.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it is. It's
hard to watch.
Yeah, it's a trial to get through.
Yeah. You're gonna struggle a little bit. What's that put your total at?
That puts me at 5 points.
Puts me at 6.5.
6.5.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's an anime maybe for me. That's an anime maybe for you as well.
Yeah, that's a high anime maybe, I'd say.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah, I would say I'm on the bottom end of the anime maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's what we thought about Boogiepop. I believe I watched y'all playing the Dengeki Bunko or whatever it was.
Bunko.
You and Corey on there on the Let's Play. Check it out, Rapid Kick Media. But I believe I heard him say that, I'm gonna go Boogiepop because that's my shit. Does he have any experience with the Boogiepop series? Or does he just like that character in that game?
He just likes the character.
Okay.
I know he might have watched some of the original one with me.
I'd be interested to know what he thinks.
Yeah.
But
I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, man, that's pretty much what we thought. I'd love to hear what y'all thought about it. We're gonna go bust on out of here and go to the ramble, which will probably be a pretty quick one.
Yeah.
But
I didn't watch any anime this week other than Boogiepop.
My beautiful baby boy. But yeah, man, if y'all want to tell us what y'all thought of it, of course, anywhere you can find our podcast, you can rate and subscribe.
Yeah.
On
the
YouTube.
Please don't think that we're shitting on it because I know the score is
I
lower
gave 6.5. I feel like that's better than some stuff I've given.
Is one of my lower scores. I couldn't give it an anime. I wouldn't call it an anime, but an anime is a low anime is where I felt comfortable.
Sure.
Though, I still did like it.
But yeah, man, stay tuned if you're on the podcast. Check out the links in the description below if you're checking this out on YouTube.
Hey, man, what's scrolling above us in the YouTube video? What are we watching next week?
You know what we're going to watch next week? We talked about it a little while ago. But we did this is back when we were doing our full breakdowns. We're going episode by episode kind of stuff. We never gave it a proper review, and coming up pretty soon is a season 2. So we're gonna talk about Agretsuko.
Yeah. So
do you want to hit the Christmas special too as part of that?
Yeah. Why not?
So we're gonna talk about Agretsuko season 1.
Yeah, it's 1 through 12, and the 13th episode is a Christmas special.
It's a Christmas special, which is pretty fun. And we're going to hit those up. We're going to talk about it. We're going to have a good old time. Thank you.
If you haven't watched Agretsuko or haven't listened to our review of it, definitely go watch Agretsuko and then come tune into the review with us because we like this one.
Before, when we talked about Agretsuko, I believe I described it as, since it's like a 15-minute show, so really it's 13, 12 and a half minutes each thing.
Yeah.
So what is that? How many? 12 episodes of that?
Yeah.
12 episodes.
It's gonna be like we're watching 6.5 episodes of anime.
So 12 episodes, less than 50 minutes each. You can get through this whole thing in less than the amount of time it took you to watch Avengers Endgame. So, yeah, check it out.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And I'm excited for season 2.
It's a quite fun show.
Which, we're doing it so we can do the season 2. There's also another season 2 coming up. And it'll be one of the animes we're reviewing. We'll talk about that
next week.
Yep.
But that's about it for us here. Again, links in the description. Check us out. We'll have the full plugs at the end of the ramble.
Ding our dongs.
Ding our dongs if you want to click that bell and smash that like button.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's about it for us. Of course, shout out to our good buddy Thomas Tastes Better for the use of our closing theme song on the YouTube review.
The buddy's good.
The buddy's good. Check him out, Thomas Tastes Better on Instagram. And I think that's about it.
Yep, let's get into our short ramble.
We're gonna move on to the ramble, and we will see y'all next week.
Yeah, thanks so much, good buddies. Catch you next time. Goodbye.